Hello YouTube, this is Jericho Majors coming back to do another review, this time of episode 4, season 8, Doctor Who. Listen, starting off this review, I'm just going to go ahead and say I really enjoyed this episode thoroughly, a lot more than the others that have come out. Regardless of the date scene at the beginning of the episode, I could really feel the Steven Moffat vibe most of the way through the episode until the end. And even though, I've said before that in the episodes I'm kind of tired of a lot of the romantic comedy stuff, I really did enjoy the kind of date scene between Clara and Danny Pink. Now, the kind of opening sequence or kind of scene is of Peter Capaldi in the TARDIS by himself talking about, giving this very interesting speech, this speech that I was really enjoying him kind of go through, where he was talking about, there in nature there are perfect hunters. There are things that will, progress in evolution and become better hunters. He's said, and then he's like, there are perfect defenders, and it kind of is alluding to that. He's kind of like skulking around, kind of like an explorer. I really like that. And then he's like, hiding is another one of the traits, but how can you tell what the perfect hider is? Or what, when something hiding better than everything else, you can't tell. You wouldn't be able to tell. And he's kind of playing around with the concept, and he's like, if you were listening to me, or if I was talking, what would you do? And he's kind of like yelling out into the TARDIS, and he turns around to the board he was writing on, and it says listen, which is the title of the episode, and he says it like first word in the episode is listen, and he kind of says listen a couple more times, but that's not important. Title drops are kind of but I don't mind them. I really, just to get this out of the way, I was in love. I was in complete just love with Peter Capaldi's outfit in this episode. He kind of wore the jacket or the coat that he's worn before. He wore the pants, he wore the boots. He kind of wore this sweater, this kind of, I don't know what else to call it, this kind of knit sweater with like little specks in it. I love those kinds of sweaters anyway, but he was wearing it with his outfit and just looked so good. I don't know why I enjoyed it so much, but I was really just taken aback by how much I loved it, and it was so cool just to take off that suit vibe. It was very cool to see. Anyway, yeah, like I said, I didn't really feel the Steven Moffat vibe throughout the episode. I didn't really feel like a lot of it was cheesy. I mean, there are very Steven Moffat-y things in this episode, things that you see, and you're like, Maverick. This is my dog, Maverick. You've probably seen him walking around in videos before. He's just kind of enjoying himself, hanging out. Maverick. He's so cute. He's gonna come up here with us. Yo! Oh, he's a good boy. Now, sorry about that. Anyway, I'm just gonna, to keep from dwelling on it, I'm gonna kind of bring up the things that were very Steven Moffat-y that I obviously didn't enjoy. That I didn't really let weigh the episode down for me. First off, we get the kind of the diner scene, kind of Steven Moffat-y because it was kind of freaky, sexual type of thing, where Danny Pink was like, I might go for afters. Which was, whatever. It was kind of funny, awkward, whatever. And then there was him, like the doctor facing the door near the end of the episode, which I'll get to, and he kind of says a little nursery rhyme. Steven Moffat has a thing for nursery rhymes. I mean, it's been the arc of a show. It was the arc of season 6, and he kind of just inserts little nursery rhymes here and there for like villains to say, and for the doctor to say, and for people to recite. And I don't know what his thing with nursery rhymes is. I really don't. They're not very effective. They might have been creepy if he hadn't used them as much. Whatever. Anyway, and also the end was very sappy and very Steven Moffat-y. It was like wrapped up in a nice little bow and just kind of like, oh, so you can kind of feel sorry for the doctor a little bit, I guess, or just it was a very sappy ending that actually didn't make any sense, and I'll get to that. But anyway, we get the doctor and Clara, kind of really funny scene. He's at her house and he's like, you went on a date. I thought I might stay in your room in case you brought him home. That was kind of funny. And then he's like, if he comes back, you've already got your makeup off. And she's like, I've got my makeup on. And he's like, oh, well, you probably just missed a bit. I'm like, you know, it's funny. We get her, you know, kind of creepy little, you know, the doctor's like, why does everyone have the same dream? You know, why does that happen? And it's kind of cool, and it's not really paid off, actually. What they set up in the episode, it doesn't really pay off. But anyway, while she's sticking her fingers into the telepathic circuits, which we finally get a reason why those are there, we finally get an explanation of what that is, that part of the console, and it's pretty interesting, the fact that someone can kind of stick their fingers into the TARDIS's, you know, organs, whatever it is. Call it whatever you want, telepathic circuits. Okay, it's warm and sticky and wet. Anyway, no, while she is doing that, he's like, focus really hard, and she gets a call from Danny, and she's like, ah! Thinks of Danny Pink, and he's like, fuck your phone, and he like throws it behind him. I don't know, every little thing that Peter Capaldi does, and I don't know why, I'm loving it so much. Every little thing he does is just amazing, and he plays it off so well, and I really hope he sticks around for a long time, because I'm loving him. Anyway, and that kind of inserts him into his timeline, into Danny Pink's timeline, whenever he was a young boy, as Rupert Pink. And Clara kind of pulls a blonde moment. Whenever she goes outside the house or whatever, the doctor's like, stay in the TARDIS. And she looks up at the boy in the window, and she's like, what's your name? And he's like, Pink. And she's like, oh, that's nice. Pink's a good last name. Because she would never have connected the two. Whatever, I don't know. Pink's a very unusual last name. I would have thought she'd be like, oh yeah, little black kid, Pink. That's Danny. Rupert was he's like, my name's Rupert, and she's like totally dismissive of whatever. But that's fine, because then we get this very just, like I said, everything that Peter Capaldi's doing is just amazing. He goes and he talks to the caretaker, and he's like, you ever look down and your coffee's gone? And he's like, yeah, all the time, everyone does that. And the doctor's like, yes, everyone. And then, you know, he kind of pulls a Batman and disappears, and so does the guy's coffee, and then you get a shot of Peter Capaldi like, yeah. And he kind of, you know, goes off screen. Which also brings me to another thing. Peter Capaldi is going to have a thing. He's going to have a couple things. Every Doctor kind of has a couple things, regardless of what showrunner there is, regardless of... It just ends up happening, because to be that kind of character, there has to be something that the actor wants to insert into the character. Regardless of what it is, there's a thing. I mean, the Third Doctor had his crazy outfits, he had his martial arts, he had his cool gadgets and his cool cars and cool automobiles and stuff. The Fourth Doctor, obviously, he had his, you know, screwdriver. He made that more prevalent. And he had his kind of jelly babies. He had his little candies. And he'd be like, would you like a jelly baby? And, you know, everyone has a thing. Matt Smith obviously had his, this is cool, that's cool, this is cool, that's cool. And he kind of, Geronimo, I guess they wanted to give him a catchphrase because David Tennant made the baddest ass catchphrase of all time. I mean, in comic history, TV history, movie history, Allons-y is probably my #1 favorite catchphrase of all time. I mean, it's just so cool. I don't know why. It's French for let's go, literally. And it's just so cool. And it really doesn't make sense, because if the TARDIS Matrix is on, and if he says Allons-y, you should just hear him say let's go, right? Whatever. No, I'm not worried about that. Anyway, Peter Capaldi, I kind of feel like, this is just a theory early on, that one of his things is going to be coffee, maybe. Like, in the first episode, when he drops off Jenna Coleman, he's like, let's go get coffee. And in this episode, he steals the guy's coffee, and he's kind of drinking. He's like, coffee. I don't know, like, I don't hope that that's his thing. I'm just saying, like, I can't wait to see what his thing is. I'm really excited. But I think one of them might be coffee. I'm just saying that early on. Might not be, might be, whatever. Whatever. Anyway, So Clara goes into this kid's room and is being all rapey and creepy, and they get under the bed together, and then something sits on the bed. Oh, and she's like, "That's a friend of yours playing a trick, right?" And he's like, "I don't got friends, bitch." And it's pretty creepy, honestly. It's Stephen Moffat creepy. Like whenever he's writing creepy, and it's written well, it's done well. It's pretty creepy, and that was pretty creepy because you couldn't see it. It was just a little thing under the covers, and then we get probably my favorite scene of Peter Capaldi yet in the entire season. Before that a little bit, he's like, "Where's Wally?" And he's like looking through this book, and he's like, Danny Pink is like, he's not in every book, and he's like, "Oh, that's a couple years of my life. I'll be needing back." But then we get this. Oh my God, we get this amazing speech, this amazing kind of anecdote that Peter Capaldi does, and it's entirely quotable. I put it at the beginning of this video because it's my favorite quote from this episode, is that fear is a superpower. And he's like, "Are you scared?" And the kid's like, "Yeah." And Peter Capaldi's like, dude, fear makes your heart pump faster, makes your blood rush faster, makes you jump higher, makes you run faster, makes you more alert. You think that thing's scared? You think that thing over there is scared? No, because he's a loser. And I was just like, oh my God, like, not only for empowerment to a kid that's scared, I mean, which is something I wouldn't expect Peter Capaldi to do, but for him to, like, the Doctor to be able to empower people, that is one of his most common traits. That is one of the coolest speeches I've ever heard the Doctor say come out of his mouth. It was so cool. I'm sorry, but it was like amazing for me. Anyway, they all turn their back, and he's like, "Don't look at it! Don't look at it! Oh my God! Don't look at it! Hey, go leave in peace, man! Go away!" Not like that. He's actually very cool when he says it. He's steely. He's like, "Please go away." Yeah. So it like pulls the cover off, kinda, and it's out of frame and kind of out of focus, and you don't really see what it is. But it's definitely something, which I will allude to later. Anyway, they basically, everything's cool and right in the room, and then the kid's like, there's kind of this little toy thing, and the kid's like, "I'm gonna call him Dan the Soldier Man," and Clara's like, "Oh. And that comes in later, and then he's like, "Will you read me a story to sleep?" And the Doctor just goes, "Once upon a time." The end. Kind of puts him to sleep with one little touch, which is something the Doctor has done a lot of times before, kind of put people to sleep or do a Vulcan mind melt kind of thing, and I mean, that's common. Whenever I was watching that with my friends, they were like, "What the fuck? Is he like some kind of superhero now?" I'm like, dude, he's always had that. It's just a weird time lord thing. I didn't mind it. I thought it was really cool. Anyway, we go on to find out that Orson, I think his name was, which the entire episode I thought his name was Awesome. 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 I thought his name was Awesome because of the way they were pronouncing it, and because whenever he said his name was Awesome Pink, then he was like, yeah, I laughed too. I thought his name was Awesome, but it's Orson, which is obviously a reference to Orson Welles' Time Machine. A little reference. Anyway, Clara goes back on her date, and it kind of doesn't go super well once again, and Danny's being kind of a dick. I don't really see their connection yet, but it's fine, I guess, because they have to be together for whatever reason. The Doctor, you think it's the Doctor, coming out in his little spacesuit, which is the one from Waters of Mars and the one from Hyde. He comes out, and they go back in the TARDIS, and then it's actually Orson Pink, which is Danny Pink's like great-great-grandson, I think, who was one of the first time travelers or whatever. And he accidentally goes to the end of time, the end of everything, well, not the end of time, the end of the universe, basically, to the last planet, accidentally, like you do. And the doctor's being all creepy and weird and awesome. Why is that door locked if there's nothing out there? And Orphan's like, no, man, don't make me stay here. Oh. And then you find out there's something behind that. And then him and Clara kind of sit there, and there's another really awesome scene where there's like sounds, and Clara's like, what was that? And the doctor's like, what kind of answer do you want? And she's like, reassuring one? And he goes, it's just the air shield stabilizing. And then there's like more sound, and he's like, it's the engine cooling, like the pipes when they bang in your house. Yeah. And she's like, okay, cool. Anyway, he tells her to get back in the TARDIS when shit starts going down, and she's like, no! And he's like, bitch, get in my TARDIS. That's how this works, or you're not coming along anymore. Get in TARDIS. And so she does, and they watch him, and the video's all fuzzy, but basically he's trying to face whatever this thing is. It opens up, the airlock isn't really quite what it was or whatever, and he kind of gets this little hole, he gets like sucked away, kind of almost, and then Orson Pink saves him, and he has his like head busted. Anyway, she tries to fly away by using the telepathic circuits in the TARDIS, and apparently was thinking about the Doctor. And they go all the way back to his childhood in a barn, which he apparently grew up in as an orphan, maybe? I don't know. I really find it weird whenever they try to explore the Doctor's past like that. I really don't care. Not only do I not care, but I don't want to know. I don't want to know about the Doctor's past. He's supposed to be mysterious. We're supposed to not know a lot past whenever he decided to be the Doctor. I mean, I don't want to know what he was like before he was the Doctor. I mean, I know that's kind of selfish of me, but it's what keeps the mystery alive in his character, I feel like. Even though they allude to it all the time, kind of like in the End of Time, whenever he and the Master were kind of like, when we were boys, we were friends. When you become a Time Lord, you gotta steer into the vortex. And, you know, that's fine. It explains how the Doctor perceives all these timelines really well. Anyway, we get this really, oh my god, she's under his bed, and he wakes up and he sits up to go look at what the TARDIS is or whatever, which he doesn't know about yet. And she grabs his ankle, and you're like, oh! I guess? I mean, like, it kind of explains shit for why everyone in the history of since then has had that dream. Maybe? Like, I'm kind of inferring that the Doctor maybe used the circuits and that dream, like, spread out into the universe. Maybe? I don't know. But it's basically wrapped up like that moment whenever Clara reached under his bed and grabbed his ankle is the reason all these people have this dream. And then they just leave, and she's like, you can't know where we were. Even though he very well could have looked at the screens or the settings or whatever. I don't know. I felt like that was a huge waste on a very, very well set up villain or creature or something. Like, that could have been a new thing, which was like a dreamy, like, impossible to see kind of thing. If they didn't, like, if they kind of made it into a very unknown type of thing, that would have been a really cool new thing that this Doctor introduced. That would have been really cool, and they kind of just did away with it with this very sappy ending that I didn't like too much. And then, like, Clara goes to Danny's house and makes out with him. I guess it's implied that they maybe. I don't know. But anyway, it's just kind of like all of this cool, creepy stuff that they set up is just kind of thrown to the wayside. And not even that ruined the episode for me, because Peter Capaldi was so good. He was just amazing, and he's still just doing so well. And I love the outfit. I love the sweater. Anyway, they're basically setting up Clara and Danny Pink to, like, get together. Or whatever. I really I'm completely indifferent about, not really indifferent, I really don't want them to get together. I want for them to have, like, been friends, maybe. That would have been fine. But the fact that they met one afternoon at school, and then they had a date that went terribly, and then she showed up at his house and did the nasty, they're gonna get married? Okay. Cool, Stephen Moffat, I guess they're gonna get married. I give this episode an A. Because it was the good parts were written really well and acted really well. It set up a lot really well. Even though I'm kind of annoyed by the whole Danny and Clara thing and the kind of ending, I really enjoyed this episode thoroughly, a lot more than the other one. So I'm gonna give it an A. My review for episode 5, Time Heist, will most likely be up either Saturday night or Sunday night. I'm going to start trying to get these reviews out earlier instead of like a week or 2 or 3 later. Thanks for watching, guys. See you later.